Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be with you here at the 2025 Berlinale. Maybe we could begin with a brief introduction to Dreams for people who haven't seen it yet. What can they expect going in?
It's a movie about a young girl who falls in love for the first time and
Writes about it.
and we sort of follow all the stages of the emotion that you feel when you experience the first of everything.
Yeah, and it's also about her mother and grandmother
Yeah.
and how they are experiences or remember their own experiences from that time when they were young.
Obviously, it's part of this trilogy you've been working on, the final part indeed. So how does it fit in with this broader story?
What I wanted from the start was to tell very different stories about the same themes, really. And I think they are the same themes throughout the whole trilogy, but they are told through different characters of different ages and who are living in different parts of Oslo. I think that, the main topics like sexuality, sexual identity and love, they all explore that in different ways. And that's the only or most important common things about these films. And I think that when you see them all together, I think you get the impression that they connect. But it's hard to describe exactly how they are connected.
And of course, I think when we normally have films dealing with first love or coming of age, we really very much focus on the person experiencing that. But it's really interesting to see it through the prism of these three generations of women. So what sparked the idea for that? And how do you think that kind of shifts our view of it? It's not something you just experience when you're young, but actually you can revisit later in life too.
No, I think it just comes from myself, really, because when I started to write it, it started with Ella, the actor, because I wanted to write a character for her. And then it was supposed to be about falling in love. And then I tried to remember my first time of falling in love. And then I remember how I felt, and I remember then I experienced how it feels to remember it in a way. And then I thought this could be interesting to explore as well, and also to explore it in an even older person. So it all began, with me and my memories.
And how did you see this character of Johanna? What was so appealing to you about playing her, and what were some of the highlights?
I think that I see a lot of myself in Johanna, which also is then it's also easier to sort of feel like get close to her and then feel like that's something that you really want to play. And quite early on we read the whole script and read the whole voiceover and talked about that, and I thought it was just incredibly written. And I thought that how can someone just write down on paper how it feels to fall in love for the first time, and how real it feels, and how intense and how sensitive, and which were like all the feelings that I've felt, and then I felt at the time as well. So it was super, super fun and interesting to get to sort of almost go through all those emotions again when working with it. One of my highlights was doing that. And I think she's a very interesting character to play because she's super sensitive, but she lives in her own bubble and she's quite isolated as well. So she's not, I'm a bit more, I think, like feelings very easily. You can see how I feel or when I talk to people about it. And she sort of creates her own feelings and her own fantasy. And that was super fascinating for me.
And obviously, because you'd worked together before, did you almost already have a bit of a shorthand? And did that make it easier to kind of collaborate and work on the character together, and how are you going to play her?
Obviously, since I've worked with him before, then I also trusted him a lot. I knew that it was a guy that I enjoyed working with. And it's nice when you it's nice also when you start working with someone and something which is so intense. Like I knew this is a main character, a very big role, and it's quite important that you trust the person that you're working with, so it's easier to also commit to it fully and dare and trust the process. And that's very hard if you don't sort of trust the person that's telling you to do things. So
that trust must go both ways.
Yeah,
that's important as well, I think.
That's true.
I think there's a lot of, it can become a bit sort of cliched to talk about putting women front and center these days, but it's very much a female universe. And it feels really refreshing, like we said, to see different generations of women thinking about love and sex. And that feels quite freeing. Was that something quite intentional on your part to kind of, break with some of the traditions of the past where it can feel like women's stories weren't always put front and center? Or is that something that just came out about quite organically?
It came out quite organically because I wanted wanted to work with these particular actors, and then and I wanted to put them together, and then and I didn't have a character for a father, so yeah.
And for you, does that feel quite refreshing for it to be like it's the female experience so at the front of it?
Yeah, it was great, and it wasn't something that I thought very much of when we shot it. Like I was like, this is a woman empowering movie,
No,
but
never.
When we never talked about it, it wasn't something that I noticed like, oh, we lack male people at all, really. But I was more that I resonate with the film. I have 2 sisters, and I'm very close to my mom, so it felt also very nice and comfortable.
Yeah, and it wasn't a point
wasn't
to
very
make
intentional.
no, it wasn't. No.
And what do you hope people take away from watching the film? I guess whether it makes them think about their own first love, whether, is it something sometimes we chase the rest of our lives, like trying to capture that same feeling. What do you hope people will reflect on after watching it?
Probably just that. But that's what you always hope, that people are going inside themselves and think about their lives, and maybe, But also, I want to make an entertaining movie, so I want them to be entertained, and maybe they can get some new thoughts as well.
I agree with what you're saying. I think from a young perspective, I think a lot of young people who come and see this movie and feel like it's very raw and unfiltered, or that's what I hope. And like, if I've talked to people my age who's seen it, and I feel like that's a bit rare also to see it with the first love and all the experiences, because we experience a lot of first love now throughout like social media, or through and it's very exploiting, it's very official. And personally, I very much love when people my age go and see the movie, and then they talk to me about how unfiltered it is.
Yeah, and also that it's not a problem really to have a fluid sexuality.
No, that's also
that
something
should
that
be,
we talk about. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be labeled, or it doesn't have to be so complicated. Because for Johanna, it's nothing that she really stresses about. It's just the feelings, and it's more important about the love part than the sexuality part.
And finally, what does it mean to you to have the film here at the Berlinale? Of course, you've had films here before. Is this a special place for you?
Yeah, it is a really special place. I'm honored to have this film in the competition. Really, you never know when you are making a film how it is going to end up, where or anywhere. So yeah, really lovely.
Yes, lovely. I've never been to the Berlinale before, ever. So it's just everything feels very overwhelming in a good way. So I love it here. It's very good.
And now the trilogy's finished. What's next?
Another trilogy? I don't know. I'm working on something new, but I'm
Maybe a vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been working with a series for the past half year now. So it's probably something that we'll work with also continuing on now.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me.
Thank you.
Huge
Thank you.
congratulations on the film. I really enjoyed presenting it here in Berlin. Thanks so much. Cheers. So nice. Cheers.